Bruins. These are playoff games. Jason Martinez, Chris Terry, and Brian Smith will join us from Buffalo momentarily. And Bundy, you got to approach this like it. I think you said it before. This is game one of the playoffs, and you're fighting for your season, and that starts tonight in Buffalo.
Yeah, and you know what, Jace? I love that you said that because what it is the first night of what marks the beginning of a postseason, right? Put yourself in a series mode. So I even put my jersey on here today. Anybody watching, I feel like I'm getting ready for Flyers hockey, some of the most important games we've seen in some time. So it's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to see how this team reacts. I mean, they've answered the bell on a lot of things this year, but it really becomes a very, very difficult task. 4 games on the road with a couple at home. So they've got their work cut out for them. And it starts really tonight, that playoff push in Buffalo to get what looks like there's 5 teams or 4 teams for 2 spots. And the Flyers are one of those 4 teams. But they're going to have to do it and execute well, because Buffalo, when you look at a team like Buffalo, they're in the hunt too. They still believe in themselves a little bit. So that's why these games become magnified.
Yeah, they have no margin for error. The Sabres at 77 points, and they have to leapfrog about 3 teams just to get in, so they got to basically win out to have a shot. Flyers still sitting in that 3rd spot in the Metro, 83 points through 76 games. We had some action last night. The Islanders get another win. They're now tied with the Flyers in points, but the Flyers have the tiebreaker because Washington loses to Pittsburgh, Bundy. They fall a point back, but now all of a sudden the Penguins are 2 points back with the same amount of games played. We wanted to pour dirt on the Penguins, not so quick.
Yeah, we had them written off 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think I even said they're done, but no, I mean, they go in, they beat, was it the Rangers, then the Devils, Washington. And then Washington, all on the road. I don't think they thought they were going to do that. But again, we talked during the year, teams go streaking, and they're streaking upwards right now, trending upwards. And that's why it's important if you're a team like the Flyers, like a game like tonight, no matter what anyone else says, this is a game you have to find a way to win. You have got to find a way to win this game tonight.
Bundy, on several occasions this season, the Flyers have, had these stretches, and you're going to see this in an 82-game schedule, but they've had these stretches where they'll lose 5 in a row or they'll lose 5 out of 6, and they've seemed to answer it every time. They had an early stretch where they lost 5 out of 6, and then they went on to win 5 straight back in early November, starting with Anaheim. Then they had another stretch where they lost 4 out of 5, then they won 4 straight. We see this all over the league. But the common denominator in how they got out of it every time, seemingly, is they've gone on the road. So in this situation where they're skidding right now, leaking oil, getting on the road for 4 straight, you've talked about this. On the road, it's very simple. Everything's kind of planned out for you. It's hockey, hockey, hockey. Is this just maybe at the perfect time to get back on the road for 4?
Yeah, I mean, there's not been a lot of good home cooking of late. It's been some sequences during the year, but it's not been a great home year for the team. They've found a lot of success on the road, and kudos for doing that, because it is hard sometimes to win when you're an up and coming team, finding ways to get good goaltending and offense on the road to win games. So they've done that, but it'll get ramped up here. I mean, if you look at a team like Buffalo, I mean, they're playing better. They're a little up and down, but I mean, they've gone on a roll a little bit before losing one and then getting back into a gear the other night. But this is a team that, again, you can't look past it. You can't look to tomorrow night. You have to stay in the moment. And the Flyers, again, this is where a lot of the work that they've done this year becomes so paramount, right? Every road they've taken, everything that's happened this year has come right to this point, to these last 6 games. And it's fun. It's fun, but, they don't have the cushion they had 2 or 3 weeks ago. Teams are coming up, and we've talked about water leveling off. Essentially, it's certain, when everything settles down, but they're in a dogfight right now. And even what Torch said yesterday, like BS, we're here. People don't like it too bad, but we're here. And it was a weird messaging day for him because I wasn't sure who he was talking to, but I'm looking at it from a player standpoint, and I'm looking at it like he was speaking to me and saying, you know what, believe yourselves, like go out there and do what you can, but don't discredit yourselves at all. And I think the Flyers have to believe that.
Yeah, don't feel like you've kind of the job is done. The job's not done. The expectations can change. Bundy, it is amazing. I broke this season down into quarters. They've played 76 games, 4 19-game quarters. The first quarter of the season, they got 21 standings points and were a +7 in goal differential. The second, they had 23 standings points, but were -1 in goal differential. Third, 23 standings points, -2 in goal differential. And here's the big drop. 16 in their last 19 games, 16 points, but they're -21 in goal differential. Part of that's Hart's not here and some flux, obviously, at the goaltending position, injuries on the blue line. But, geez, you've got to fix that or you're not going to have a shot in these 6 games.
You have to be ready to play. And again, I don't know if it was somebody the other night, Jason, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought somebody said the Flyers have not won a Metro game since 2023.
Wow.
If that's, I didn't know if that was right, but I heard that. I'm like, really?
Well, they beat Carolina earlier this year. They have Metro and they beat Pittsburgh.
No, I'm saying since the end of the calendar year. So I'd like to see from January till this point.
Oh, it's a good point.
Meaning the year, the actual calendar year, 2023. So that's what somebody said. I didn't check it, but when you said that, it kind of rose to my attention as we were saying it, and gives me a chance to keep talking. But again, those numbers, 16 games, 19 games, 16 points. I mean, that tells a tale of where you are at.
Yeah, Bundy, they have not won a Metro Division game in the calendar year 2024.
Okay, so that stat was right. Yeah,
that is correct. Wow, you got to win those games.
You have to win those games. Listen, win one game, win 2. Look at where you are. You take the deficit of the 2 points off that you didn't get, and then you add the 2 on. So I heard that the other day. I was like, oh my God. Because those are numbers where, like, you tell me a playoff team that hasn't won a game in their own division this year in the calendar year of 2024. It's amazing.
Yeah. That you want to get to the playoffs, you got to be good against your division. Look, there's some tough teams in the division, the Rangers, Carolina, but still, geez, that's almost stunning to even believe. Bundy, we're talking about playoffs, right? And Ivan Fedotov's going to get his first start tonight. He gets his first game the other night, sees 2 periods. I thought he looked good, and all things considered, didn't look overwhelmed. I love that he stopped the rim behind the net on the PK and just sent it. But he's being asked to do something here with a team in the teeth of a playoff run and kind of bail him out a little bit. Mm-hmm. What's kind of pressure is he under? You couple what I just said with being the savior here in net and also being a goalie adjusting to the North American game.
My attitude would be, if I were him, no pressure at all. Just go out and play. You know what? My answer would be, in my own head, well, if they're here and they're starting me in the first game of the most important game of the year, well, then I'm just going to go do my job. Because if that's where the team's at, he's got to recognize that he's immediately become a very valuable piece to the puzzle that he probably didn't realize. And so now he's getting asked to play. If you look at the 2 games, the tougher of the 2 games. There's no doubt Buffalo. You want to get the first.
Yeah.
You put all your eggs in the basket to get the first of 2 road games that are this critical at this time of year. So he's being told right now, you're our guy. You're the guy going tonight. You do your job. And it gives Ursan another night to maybe reflect or whatever. Sam hasn't been bad. It's a lot for a young kid to go through in a year. And this is an opportunity for the other goalie. No one's going to go say anything if he doesn't shine like he's supposed to, right? Because it's all house money at this point anyway. So if we can get a guy come in here and steal a couple games, get the team to the playoffs, right? Who the hell knows what's going to happen? Ask the Montreal Canadiens in 1986 with Patrick Roy. So who knows, right? Those are all dream scenarios, but you got to start somewhere and believe in something.
Yeah, remember, 86. We look at Waugh now in hindsight, and we know the career he had. Didn't know that in 1986 when he comes in and wins the cup. Look at some of the goalies, like the Hamburglar. Remember that guy? We're on the run with Ottawa.
Andrew
Hammond.
Hammond, yeah.
Yeah, Bennington's another one. We know him now because he's established, but he wasn't when he took over. Bundy, playoffs. You were in so many playoff games. Could you imagine being a player playing 1,000 games in this league and never tasting the playoffs? Jeff Skinner is going to play his 1,001st game tonight. He's got 1,000 under his belt. He's got a ton of points. All those years in Carolina, 8 seasons, 6 seasons now with Buffalo, and he's never been in the playoffs. Could you imagine that as a player who played a ton of playoff hockey?
That is unbelievable. But remember a few years ago, there, a real nice guy, played for Montreal, Ron Hainsey.
Yeah. Got a cup of
Ron Hainsey. Hainsey still only got 22 playoff games, but it was in 1 year and he won a cup.
Yep.
So what are you supposed to do? I don't know. When I play 100, maybe I don't have a cup, but I'll tell you what, there's the best part of pro sports is any playoff series that you get in, and that's what I live for. This is the time of year I get excited about. I'm not going to lie, and I think players would tell you there's games in November, early December. You're like, ugh, man. We're ways from the the beginning, but we're a long way from the end too. Well, you're here now, and these games are this is why you play hockey. This is why you're a pro athlete, to play playoff games, to shine in big moments.
How much different is it, from, those games in January, February, November, to what it's like when they put the logos on the ice for the Stanley Cup playoff? How much different is the game? I mean, the environment is insanely different to me.
Yeah,
it's almost like a different sport.
Yeah, there's an electricity right in the air. It's like this big buzz around the buildings. And that's quite frankly, I think why people were so ticked off. Like, we enjoy playoff hockey. We love being here in Philadelphia for when there's great playoff games. So we've missed that. And I think a lot of us are looking forward to that, again, coming back and feeling that energy in the parking lot when you drive in on game day, and being in the building when the anthem's being sang and the puck drops, and we get to cover it. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of people that have a lot of high hopes in this team, and like, I know for guys like you and me, like, we want them to win because we want them to win because we're from Philly and I played here, but I want them to win too because it's fun. It's a lot of fun in the spring to go down to the building and hang out with the fans and hope your team does well. I don't have high expectations for a long, dramatic playoff run, but neither do they.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any expectations that we'd be talking about the playoffs back in October when we started this. 6 games away from the end of the year, and they're in. Yeah. So I didn't think we'd be there either. And I'd be a complete liar if I told you this is what I thought, because I didn't.
Bundy, I thought April 5th we'd be manufacturing storylines and reduxing a season and going, how do they take a step forward? Was it a step forward even though the record wasn't as good? All that stuff. We're sitting here on April 5th, game in Buffalo tonight, all to play for, battling like, it seems like 10 teams now. It's only probably 4, but you're battling Ovechkin and the Caps, Crosby and the Penguins, the Islanders and Detroit. I mean, this is bananas.
It's complete insanity. And even like you said earlier, even Buffalo, Buffalo, if they're going to look at it and go, hey, if we win tonight, guys, if we knock this team off tonight, we'll give them no points. They're feeling like Pittsburgh tomorrow morning.
Bingo.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what's unique and interesting with everything going on. Listen, it's going to be a mad scramble finish. And I'll tell people, and you know this too, the games that you think your team's going to win, they may not. And the games that you think they won't win, they may pull it off. So there's just a lot of different things that to expect, and that's what the mayhem is right now. The Islanders, I think if they won like 3 or 4 in a row, I haven't loved their game. They're winning, but they're not like the team that scares me. If I have to play them in the first round. So again, there's a lot to look forward to in the next 2 weeks, but starting tonight, it should be an awesome start to this game that I would expect both teams have a ton of energy, be really fired up.
Yeah, Friday night hockey in Buffalo tonight. No snow on the ground, at least not that I know of. And Ivan Fedotov's first NHL start. Bundy, great stuff. Brian Smith will join us next as we take you right up to Flyers Sabres. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All righty. We are back live as the Flyers get set to take on the Buffalo Sabres. Final 6 games of the 23-24 regular season. begins tonight in Buffalo with a 4-game road trip. Buffalo, Columbus, Montreal, and the Rangers. Then back at Wells Fargo for the Devils on the 13th and the Caps on the 16th. And it is as tight as it gets. Jason Martinez, Brian Smith, boots on the ground in Buffalo. And Smitty, I come to understand from you that Ivan Fedotov got a little bit of a rookie lap tonight for his first start.
Yeah, about a half of one. He's already played. He made his debut the other night, so they let him go out for a little bit of a spin, but it wasn't prolonged. So he did get a little bit of the treatment though, and he makes it official with his first start tonight.
Yeah, it's a big one, and he is a player, as somebody points out here on the stream, that Sturdy says he is playing for a contract. Even though he's only played 2 periods in the National Hockey League, he's got an expiring deal with 6 to go.
It is a weird situation, isn't it? Especially when you sit down and realize he was drafted 9 years ago, and it's, I think, easy to forget it because I think to all of us, the 3 years from 2020 to 2023 were maybe just sort of an ambiguous mess. Like they didn't feel like 3 years, but they felt like 6. But you look back on it now, and it's like, wow. I mean, how many guys hit the league 9 years after they're drafted? There certainly can't have been many. Well, it's definitely a little bit of a good look here for Danny Briere, but I got to imagine that unless he melts down over 6 games, that they're going to want to bring him in, given the overall situation of the entire organization right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to judge him on this per se. They're going to get that contract done. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
One of the things too, Brian, with this game tonight, it's funny because Fedotov could end up playing in a playoff game. He's only been in the league a week and a half, and Jeff Skinner's played 1,000 games and hasn't had a playoff game. But that's what's on the line tonight. And you sent me this. Yeah. This comes from Money Puck. And the numbers on this for the Flyers' odds to make the playoffs, if they beat the Sabres tonight in regulation, according to Money Puck's model, they have them at a 74.5% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose to the Sabres in regulation tonight, it's a 30-point drop-off to 44.6%. We know how tight it is. But if you want to really look at a game and go, this one means a ton, there you go. There's the data.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about those quintessential 4-point games, if you will, when they're inside the division. This one is a similar swing. I'm looking at this, and I can't tell exactly where the Flyers' percentage is now. The way I'm reading this, though, is if they win, it goes up 13%. So right now they're down around 61%. And then if they lose, it goes down to 44. So it's that huge of a game here tonight, given everything else that's going on around them. Like you said, it is tightened up about as much as it possibly can. And there are a couple of instances with these teams around them, the Detroit-Washington pairing in particular, where they're going to play each other. And so, the good news is that one of those teams isn't going to get 2 points, but the other bad news is the other one is. So, it is a very fascinating thing. We'd written off the Penguins a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now the Sabres, I mean, they win tonight, they could be knocking on the door. So very interesting times in the NHL right now.
It is crazy. Caps will be in Carolina tonight to take on the Canes, and they are really taking on water right now are the Capitals after getting themselves back in the mix. And the Red Wings tonight, if you fall into the wild card situation and another team you battle, they're at home tonight against the New York Rangers. So both those teams the Flyers are battling with playing really good oppositions tonight in the Hurricanes and the Rangers, top 2 teams in the Metro. Flyers still sitting in that third spot by virtue of the fact that they do hold the tiebreaker over the Islanders, which is a good thing.
And you look at that schedule, and logic says the Flyers are right where they want to be. But there has not been much logic in this last couple of weeks. You've seen these teams that are on the outside beating the teams that are on the inside and not having a problem with them. So I think the good news is for the Flyers here is that they're on the road, where they seem to be more comfortable this year, and they've had 3 days here to not only rest but kind of mentally reset. When we talked to Torts today, the first thing I said to him was, well, there's been a lot of words said over the last 3 days, either in public or behind closed doors. And are you confident that your team's ready to go? And he said yes. So I think they're in a good spot here to start. That break was probably good to have before they got on this final 6-game run.
Yeah, and a lot of times when they've had these skids of 5 losses in a row or 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 7, the road has been the elixir.
Yeah,
they've gotten on the road and pulled the nose up and got things straightened out, and for a pronounced period of time.
And anecdotally, I think these skids have come at the end of stretches like what they just had, those 15, 16 games in 32 days or whatever it was. This has happened before this year. It happened back around the turn of the calendar and happened again, I think, going into the All-Star break. That at the end of these long runs, they just ran out of gas a little bit, but were able to get reset and come back strong. So you just hope that plays itself out here again in this situation.
All right, let's take our last time out here on Flyers Game Day. Flyers Sabres, we just laid it out. It's a huge game tonight between these two teams, for both teams as well. And when we come back, we'll tell you about the line combinations, who's in, who's out. Really interesting stuff, so do not go anywhere. Flyers Sabres at the top of the hour with Tim Saunders and Todd Fedoruk. We're back after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. It is the Flyers and the Buffalo Sabres tonight as the final 6 games of the regular season are upon us and all to play for the Flyers, for the Sabres. That's the case as well. Smitty, let's get into this line combinations and roster lineup for the Flyers tonight. Apparently, Yegor Zamula maybe ticked off the coach a little bit yesterday at practice, and he is not in the lineup tonight. Let's start with the D pairings. York and Sanheim, chalk. We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
Sealer and Drysdale, but then Eric Johnson and Mark Stahl.
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be how many games between the two of them? Like 2,100? Something like that. Like that's an experienced defensive pair. Hopefully they are able to keep up with the fleet of foot guys. I'm not 100% sure that Zamula is a healthy scratch. That puck that caught him in the mouth the other night seems to be rather uncomfortable, but they choose to go with Stahl on the back end and the experience in this situation as opposed to either Ronnie Attard or Adam Jennings. So obviously there's a look there to form a pairing maybe that can settle things down if things get crazy. Don't think they'll see a ton of minutes, but it is a back-to-back here too, so they could be planning this as a set of 2 games as far as the lineup is concerned.
Yeah, you can maybe bring in some legs that haven't played since Monday or in a couple of days when you face the Columbus Blue Jackets tomorrow night. We'll see if that is the case, and certainly effectiveness of play will go into that decision as well. Let's go up front. Obviously, Sean Couturier not going to be in the lineup tonight, and congratulations to him for being the Flyers nominee for the Masterton. Yep. They've had a few winners of late. I remember Ian LaPerriere, of course, won it, and Oscar Lindblom. And Sean Couturier, after missing 21 months of hockey, coming back this year, certainly a worthy candidate.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, Torch talked about it this morning. You know, when you're coming out of a situation like that with back issues and then, you know, 2 back surgeries, you really never know what's going to happen. I mean, it's just the back is so important to any, you know, everything that any of us does on a regular basis, much less those of us who try to play professional hockey night in and night out. So, you know, for him to go through both of those, do what needs to be done to get back. And, you know, again, obviously he's had some struggles as of late, but to play at the level that he is playing at is still remarkable. To be a, you know, a night in, night out, for the most part, NHL player. You know, it's really remarkable for him to have come back and gotten that squared away. So we certainly are happy to see that nomination from the writers, and, you know, we'll see what happens.
That may be the least shocking thing that's happened all season.
Yeah,
is that he's the nominee.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you get some really good stories, I think, from across the league year in, year out. And I think somebody I saw on Twitter made a decent point that, you know, Fedotov would be a consideration if he hadn't shown up 6 days ago. He might be a consideration for next year. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you know, it depends on. I think it's going to depend a little bit on how much he even wants to discuss what's happened the last couple of years for him. But you know, there's some good stories around the league every year. Remember when Lappy won it? He had, you know, taken those 2 shots to the face the year before. But a lot of it goes into also your reputation as a player, and so many people, you know, would go to war for Lappy that it wasn't a surprise that he won it that year, and same for Oscar.
Yeah, a lot of resiliency, and you're right. It's also about how you carry yourself as a player and human as well. Line combinations. Let's start at the bottom, because with Couturier out, Cates moves back into the middle, and he's going to center Cam Atkinson and Joel Farabee on the Flyers' 4th line. Then it's going to be Poehling. Not really set it and forget it, because Cates has now moved into the middle. But Poehling, Hathaway, and Ule Lixell will draw back in. And then the second line will be Scott Lawton, Owen Tippett, and Bobby Brink, who also draws back in. And then Morgan Frost, Tyson Forster, and Travis Konechny. They've got to not just rely on that top line for scoring, and they're going to have to get contributions from a couple different sources.
Yeah, and, you know, at the very least, you've got to get shot attempts from these guys. I know we saw in the last time out there were some pretty big forward names in terms of guys the Flyers rely on that didn't have a ton of shot attempts. You know, obviously not every shot's going to go on goal, but you don't want to get through a game as a top 6 forward. You only have 1 attempt or something like that. So I think it's just a matter of you know, we talked about it a little bit today. It's not, you know, the Flyers can be in the right mindset all they want, but to an extent, they've got to execute, and that's what's been missing as of late. So again, the hope is that some of that execution kind of returns a little bit with the with the break, with the rest that they've gotten, and what was a pretty up-tempo practice yesterday.
Absolutely, and obviously the big story tonight too. It's the first career start of Ivan Fedotov, the journey getting to the NHL. Spoke with him on Wednesday for Flyers Daily, and you know, he's not getting overwhelmed by the moment. I get the sense that he's really taken this and not going crazy in between his own ears.
Right.
It's so critically important for a goaltender, especially thrust into this situation, coming out of his former situation. So, I mean, look for him to be a factor.
Yeah, it's going to be – I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in a situation where he knows that he's going in. He's been able to plan. He's been able to go through his routine such that it is. I'm sure that everything here is a little bit new to him, but he's able to approach this game probably with more of a mindset of knowing he's going to get that start and doing the things he normally does, and we'll be in from the very beginning. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing what he can do here in a first start situation.
Yeah, I didn't look at that situation when he got thrown in after the first period as bad, because it didn't let him overthink.
Yeah.
But now he can go through his process through warm-ups and stretching and game day routine, which are critically important to a goaltender as well. All right, Tim Saunders, Todd Fedoruk, they've got the countdown to face-off, followed by all the first period action between the Flyers and Sabres. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Pro.